I appreciate that, but let me explain one further. Before I have the habit, when I see a problem, I just hit it square in the face, head on. When the pieces fall apart, I know what I've done wrong or right, but I got the problem going. That's the way I like to do things. I don't like to sit around and think whether I'm going to do it right or wrong, who do I see, but by then the problem grow to be bigger. That's my style of operating. You have to work with me. I checked, Jane showed me what you people had done, but the resolution wasn't passed. Did you know that? The people didn't pass the resolution. So I just went ahead and bring out the problem. Now you're faced with a problem, okay? And then my job, I think, to go out and recommend to you people, the council, a solution for my views, instead of having those two in here fighting each other.
Well, we had a solution, Mayor, Mr. Mayor. It was based upon B&O, taking care of city businesses first. Nofke has a brick and mortar facility in this city. It also associates with the ability for confiscated or secured vehicles that are towed by the police department, that they can be on city property for investigative purposes, whereas Valley does not have a facility in this city, and that's why we leaned, and the police public safety director directed it, that it would go to Nofke. Valley has the same availability to comply with the same rules that Nofke does in this city as Nofke had to do in the city of Auburn. Because the city of Auburn had the same compliance issues where Valley had the primary and Nofke's had to go out and create a brick and mortar facility just like they did in Auburn to get on their rotation period. We provided that opportunity to Valley to be in compliance with what our proposal was. We chose that route to go. And that's the way it's been, and it's been fair. We've offered them the opportunity.
Let's use the word fair. You have one exclusive.
No, we don't.
Well, that's one.
We've never given exclusivity to Nofke. If Valley chose to to work in the same realm, they had the opportunity. They chose not to.
Well, you say that you haven't sit down with these people. Valley came in, they want to be on the program.
I know they want to.
Noffish came in, they were the only people that was on the call. They weren't on contract or anything. They were just agreed that they have a complete monopoly. They had. Okay.
So I want to address you mentioned you looked back and saw that there was a resolution introduced on this subject and correctly noted that we didn't pass it. That's because the council by motion and by discussion with the public safety director had already established what John was talking about. So I see how it would look when you went back to look at that resolution, but that was to flip what we had already decided. And we decided not to pass that resolution. That didn't mean that we didn't act on it. It meant that we kept with what we had already decided. The other part that it sounds like you hadn't been aware of is that Valley Towing in I don't know how many years they had the exclusive contract. They were never a licensed business with the city of Pacific. They never paid their business license fee. They never paid their B&O tax to the city of Pacific. All things that they should have been doing at the time that they had that piece. And we don't give Nofke's exclusive contract by virtue of who they are. Is the council had, how many years prior, enacted a resolution that gave preference, assuming all of the things equal, gave preference to local businesses. Now, we debated for weeks what local business meant, and in my recollection is council finally decided that it was contextual. You know, in the context of towing companies, it's a pretty easy decision because there's a local business of Valley Towing, which is local to the region, but physically located, brick and mortar in Auburn. And there's Nofke's, which is local to the city of Pacific, physically brick and mortar located here. And so the council made the decision by motion that it was Nofke's was the more local business, and assuming all of the things equal, Nofke would get the first call. And if they weren't available, then we go to Valley and we go to other folks. I would encourage you not to, but if you choose to further this discussion, this debate, I think that you'll find there are a whole number of regional, local businesses that either have somebody that works here or somebody that lives here, or they drive through here, that will want that. And I think that you'll see that it can quickly snowball into a problem that you may not have expected.
Well, let me put it this way, you wanna take the problem? You're
No.
welcome to it.
We've already addressed it. It's done.
You're gonna have Nofsky's in it?
No, it's already done, but
No, it's not done yet.
no, it
For
was
me,
done
it's
before
not.
you got a hold of it.
Pardon?
It was done before you ever learned about it. We dealt with it here in council meetings.
What would deal with it again?
No, it's already done. I think
Lieutenant,
that,
I have a question. Before Nofke came to town in Auburn, how many towing companies were on the rotation for calls out of the city of Pacific?
Before Nofke came in?
Yes.
You had 5.
I was thinking there was 5 or 7 companies that were rotated on the call list.
We utilized 2. We utilized special interests, and we utilized Valley Towing. Those were the only 2 that we utilized as far as being on a regular rotation.
Right.
Of course, if neither of them were available, then we would look on the outside for another one, but we just utilized 2 primary companies. And then Nofke replaced those 2 by decision of the council.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, let me ask instead of asking you, Osmer, did you chat with the police department about this decision?
No.
Oh,
And working in the past, when this was, when we were all discussing this before, and I had conversations with Chief Calkins about this, it was his recommendation, and I don't know as acting chief if you feel the same way, Lieutenant, to have 2 companies that were on a rotation that we were never in a body. And then that was how the chief wanted it set up. He wanted it back that way, and then so we were in the process of trying to get the wording right, and never got right, and now it just never came back. Every time we would work on it, so that's just my thoughts on how I felt like it never was resolved. I never had a conversation with the mayor, just in hearing what you said that we had decided on this and we had moved on. I felt like we had not moved on, or we just left it the way it was, and there was never a resolution on how we would fix that. I don't have to say again and again and again, you guys are all very much aware of how I feel about, the situation. I believe in the fairness of allowing both tow companies service our city and be on a rotation, a fair rotation. Valley was presented with all these different things, saying they need to do this, they need to do this. They got a business license in the city of Pacific. They made it set up on all their calls. When it's picked up in Pacific, they showed me, I went and viewed how their computer works. It shows the tax goes straight to Pacific, it's stored in their lot, the money goes straight to Pacific, all the tax, and that was one of council's complaints. They jumped they did that. They came in compliance with all the things that the city asked for. And so, and every time we would come back, there was another thing that the city wanted them to comply to. And I was trying to make it clear, I have nothing against Nofke. I was really upset about the fact, and I'm just saying this again because, to get the mayor on board, I guess, is because we had a company that went above and beyond for our city without ever asking for anything in return. And they just did it because they were part of our community. They may not have been based in our community, but they acted as part of our community and stepped up when we had floods, when we had situations that they needed help. They just jumped in without being asking for anything in return. They provided things for the city of Pacific, for Pacific Days, the cars, they're on our parade, they bring crash dummies. I mean, they act like a part of our community. So a tow company moves to our community, we totally shut them out, tell them goodbye, sorry, we have our own tow company. I have issues with that. That's been my issue all along. And I'm sorry.
No, and I recall the debate fairly clearly, and at least my recollection, and I don't know if yours is the same, as you were trying to draft that resolution, the reason that it didn't move forward is that every time, and I think it was clear how you were trying to craft that, because you wanted Valley to be in the rotation, but every criteria that was crafted there either included Valley and a number of other regional tow companies, and I think that there was the desire that those other companies we didn't want to include. And any definition that could be come up with that only included Valleys, but also smelled pretty stinky of pale, and hey, if you give money to our city, and if you do this for free, then we'll reward you with a contract. Which certainly, I don't think was the intent, but that was the only way that, if I were certainly any one of those other companies, I would say, hey, listen, they just did that because Valley gave them the money, they gave them free stuff, and now all of a sudden they're being rewarded with a contract that excludes us when we fit every other definition of that element, or element of that element.
Okay, may I say one thing to conclude is, all we're doing is yakking back and forth, we're not getting to the problem. You wanna handle the problem? Fine.
So,
You want me to handle the problem? I'll handle the problem, and I'll report to you people. Make up your mind and let's get going.
There's one thing I want to interject here. The council made reference, or the mayor made reference to the chief. The chief of police had nothing to do with Anofsky being the only one. He was completely out of his hands, and as far as he was concerned, let the council make the decision and he would do as the council wished. So let's clarify that. I don't want him falsely accused of something.
Yeah, and if I may, I think part of the background on this that the public certainly may not be aware of is that without reference to the towing situation at all, we had adopted a procurement policy that gave preference to local companies. And the next time the towing issue came up, someone mentioned that there was now a local company that should be getting preference under our adopted procurement policy. So the question was, do we, the first time that our procurement policy is tested, do we step back on it and say, no, we didn't really need to support local businesses? Do we find a way to craft this purchase that, in this particular situation, that makes them both be local companies? Or do we say, no, the purchasing policy says local companies, the chief properly allocated it to the local company, and we don't feel like changing the definition of a local company? So that is why it appeared that the council had taken no action on it, is that we had established a procurement policy and complied with it in making the original decision.
Can I say one thing? This is how I think. We are going back and forth, we're talking about the has been before. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear what we're going to do to solve the problem. Forget about who said what did what. We've got a problem now, let's look ahead. Solve the problem. I don't care what Chief Calkins said, what you people did, and what you people should have done.
Well,
Let's solve the problem.
our procurement policy is still on the books, so we should start by complying with it.
Okay. You want me to handle it, or you want to handle it? Either one.
No, I think we're saying it's already been handled. What my and I don't speak for the rest of the council, my recommendation is that you contact the folks that you've already been chatting with, and you apologize because you exceeded your authority and this has already been handled by council. That's my recommendation.
Well, I don't want to apologize to you people at all.
No, I'm not
You
asking
had
you
a
to apologize
problem
to
out
me.
there.
I'm asking that you apologize to them because this didn't turn out to be an issue that it was already dealt with. That's what I'm recommending.
That's what you think, I don't.
The attorney has a comment.
Based upon the limited time I had to look at it, my understanding is the resolution of the council went to the Public Safety Committee and never come back. So I think that's what that situation is. The other cities that I've looked at on who selected the towing company, generally, the police chief does. Now, I'm not sure what our ordinance says as to who selects the towing company. But if there is an ordinance that says that the public safety officer, the chief, is the guiding person that makes that selection, then all the council has done is made an advisory opinion to the chief. Now, in changing the towing company, it all depends upon what the rules of the city of Pacific say. If it's the council's decision, then the mayor has exceeded his authority. If it's the police decision and they didn't, then and they've abrogated it to the council, back to the Public Safety Committee, but somebody has got to have the responsibility to select that, and that's where the authority lies.
As I recall from Finance Committee discussion on this and General Council discussion on this, the authority to make the decision is with the chief of police in compliance with the adopted procurement policy that gives preference to local companies.
Then that's the decision that's been made, and I mean, that's the authority rests with that selection.
So then the question is, does this selection comply with the adopted procurement policy?
Well, if you can find a policy in that code, you let me know. You let me know. You find it and you show it to me.
I'm sure we'll have no problem finding
Do that.
the procurement policy because it was
Do that.
recently adopted and was brought up repeatedly during the previous debate on this issue.
Do that. If you, okay, then the problem is solved.
I'd like to make one issue, and the mayor had made some comments while we were having this discussion. And I want just to reemphasize that this is a council workshop. It is not the mayor's workshop. You have no authority to tell us to cease and desist the conversation and move forward or whatever. That is, the council president is in charge of this meeting. It's a council workshop. We want your input, we want to have a discussion with you, but you will not dictate or control the workshop and what we're going to discuss and what we're not going to continue discussing it. That is the council's authority.
May I say one thing? The reason why I'm saying what I did, because I don't want to be pot shot by you people. I have to stand up
Okay, that's
and
fine.
present the problem.
Point of order. That's not a respectful comment.
Okay, moving on, I think we're done with this topic. You wanted to bring up the contact list?
Yes, I'd like to have all of us, I noticed the list